What's up, guys, and welcome to the Isn't It Crazy podcast. My name is Rudy Perez, and before we get started, I just want to say thank you for tuning in with other options like Netflix, Prime, Pornhub, other YouTube videos. You could be watching a lot of other stuff, so I truly appreciate that. Today, I want to talk about how to survive quarantine, and my quarantine hasn't been that bad. I mean, I'm considered an essential worker, which I don't know why. We work in the automobile industry and we fix rims. It's not very essential. I get why a mechanic would have to go to work because what if an ambulance breaks down or a cop car breaks down? They have to fix it. But we're really doing just rims. But they do consider us an essential business. So I'll take it. I mean, I'm not complaining. We still get paid. We don't really have to worry about a lot of the things people are worrying about, not having a job, not being able to buy groceries or pay rent. But there is still the weekends and the times I'm off. Just because we have work doesn't mean we're working our regular hours. They actually cut like maybe 4 hours out of our day. So I have a lot of downtime. And with downtime comes a responsibility not to go crazy. If you get cooped up inside too long, that's what happens. You end up going crazy. And if you guys don't believe me, the worst punishment somebody can get in a prison is self-isolation. They'll put you in a cell and you can't talk to anybody for like a month. And every time they take them out, they're crazy. They're like, we're social creatures. We need to talk to people. We need to be doing things or else we get lost in our minds. But speaking about losing my mind, the other day on Sunday, I just had enough. I told my girlfriend to grab the clippers and I was going to get a haircut. I was just going to do it myself. I can't wait another month to go to a barber. I don't know if it's the same for girls, but guys, the longer you go without a haircut, the more self-conscious you get about yourself. You wake up, you look at yourself, and you feel like a bum. That whole look good, feel good thing. That's actually kind of true for guys. Every time you go to the barbershop, you get a haircut, and you feel like a new man. You get a little confidence boost and you look good. So the longer that goes without being done, the worse off you are. I said, fuck it. 60 days into quarantine, I was just like, I need to take this bush off my head. And you would think a buzz cut would be the easiest haircut you could do. You just pick a length on the clippers and you go all around the head. I learned pretty quickly that that's not the case. Hair grows different directions, so you got to know how to cut against the grain to make sure everything's even. And that's where the hard part is. When I had the idea, I felt like one of those girls in the movies where she cuts her hair and she says, fuck it, I'm going to be bad. I'm going to cut my hair. Maybe she broke up with somebody and she wants to be a new person and get more confidence. And in the movies, it works out. But in real life, those girls that cut their hairs, cut their bangs, they just end up crying and complaining about it to everybody on Facebook. So that's what happened to me. The moment she cut it, I knew it was a bad idea. I just felt it. I was like, oh man, this is not going to end well. And it took 2 days to get a decently looking head. You guys can't see it right now, but like at the back of my head, it looks like a baby mullet. So I just can't get back there. And I do not want to go all the way down because then I'm going to have to shave my whole head. So I'm just going to leave it like that. It doesn't really matter because nobody's going to see me for 2 weeks other than at work. And they already roasted me. Somebody called me 11 from Stranger Things. Somebody said I look like Michael Scofield from Prison Break. I personally think I look like Dan Humphries from Gossip Girl or Brad Pitt from Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Back when he was like cheating on Jennifer Aniston with that dime piece J-Lo. So, I mean, it's not a bad look. I used to get this haircut all the time in high school. So it's kind of cool to see myself go back to what I used to do all the time. I used to get a haircut maybe once every week and it got pretty crazy. And eventually, I feel like the older you get, the less you care about your hair. You let it grow out or maybe you just get the sides done. I don't know. I guess I was just more insecure in high school and I wanted to look good all the time. So I needed that haircut. But once you don't give a fuck about that, then the hair gets longer. So by the time hopefully this is over with, I'll go get a actual haircut from a barbershop with a newfound appreciation to what they do because obviously I can't do it. So they are essential. I get why they're closed it's probably because one, they're very close contact, they gotta touch your head, and they're talking to you. So the chances of you catching something are pretty fucking high. So I guess I get why they would close down every single barbershop. But I definitely appreciate what they do. And like a lot of guys, that's one of the first places we're gonna go when we get out of this whole quarantine thing. All right, but speaking about quarantine, I wanted to talk to you guys about how to survive quarantine. There's things that you could do so you don't go crazy. And that's the hardest part. If you don't believe me that people go crazy when they're stuck in a room by themselves, then you don't know what happens in prison. The worst thing they could do in prison, once you break the rules, is not put you more in prison. They just put you by yourself for like a month. And every time they take them out, these guys come out crazy because one, we're social creatures. We have to socialize with other human beings. We have to be doing things or we get lost in our minds. That could be a thing. People get depression, people lose their minds, they start doing dumb shit, and that's a very real risk that could happen. I wonder how many people are going to walk out of this quarantine feeling really, really sad about themselves. Not only are you just sitting on your couch watching Netflix all the time, but you're eating and you're gonna gain some weight, and some people might come out with body issues and be depressed, and it could be a really rough quarantine for some people. The first step to a quarantine, I mean, we're already a month into this bitch, right? And who knows, maybe we get to May 1st and they say, oh, another month. And then people are really going to start losing their shit. So, one of the first steps that I think everybody should do is do a little bit of research about what the virus does and what the virus is and why we're in quarantine. Don't turn on the news. The news is like the worst source that you could go to because if you pay attention to the news, they're just trying to scare the shit out of you. That's how they keep your attention. It's called fear mongering or something like that, where they just show you the worst of the worst kind of things. Back in the day, news was all look at what happened today. News now is like look at the scariest things we could find and put in front of you. And when you combine that with a news owner that has his own political agenda and then they choose what they want to put in front of you, maybe they hide some some things, maybe they lie about some things, maybe they just focus on one fear aspect of what's going on, and trying to be in quarantine while you're scared out of your mind is not a good idea. I think the news is the worst place to go to. If you look at Fox, they say that Donald Trump is handling this perfectly. If you go to a liberal newscast, they say that Trump is dropping the ball at every corner and we don't know what to do. So who's right and who's wrong? Both of them are just trying to scare you. And if you believe in something, like you're a Republican, then you're going to believe Fox. If you're a Democrat, you're going to believe any liberal media that's out there that's going to just, whatever's going to ring true to you, that's what you're going to believe. So what you should do is try to find the people that are in the front lines, doctors, scientists, people that are trying to give you the facts and not scare you. And once you see the numbers and why we're in quarantine, what are the real dangers of the virus, maybe it's not so scary. And then you can relax a little bit. I know fear and stress and anxiety can get to a lot of people, and that might make it even worse if you do get the virus, because then your immune system is worse off if you're sad or you have anxiety or you're stressed out. It's not working at its optimal capability. So make sure you do your research. That's the first thing you should do. And it gives you something to do. So do your research, find credible sources that aren't trying to scare you or have an agenda, and then you can relax and then plan the rest of your quarantine out. What I've been doing in my quarantine is obviously I get to go to work and I get to come back, but there's times where, work did cut our hours. So I have a lot of free time. Luckily for me, I have this podcast and I have video games. So I try to keep myself busy, but it's important for you to keep your regular schedule and try to live as normal as possible. We live in a strange time. You go to the supermarket and everybody has a mask on. You walk around and people are trying to stay away from each other. You can't go anywhere else other than the supermarket, the bank, and outside. And even outside, here in Chicago, they closed off the lakefront, obviously, because people were getting too cocky and they were going out. And that's one of the aspects that I think DC should be really worried about, because every time the weather gets better, more and more people are coming out. And when summer hits and they haven't found a solution to all of this mess, you're fucked. You good luck trying to keep people inside. People are gonna want to go outside and have cookouts and enjoy the weather, and people aren't gonna stay at home when they feel like their summer's going to waste because nobody's finding a cure or a solution for this. So hopefully come May, they start reopening stuff slowly back to a little bit of normal. But it's important to keep your regular schedule, because you will go back to your job and it's going to feel like shit for like a week if you don't keep your schedule. So wake up at the same time. Maybe give yourself an hour to sleep in. That always feels nice, but do wake up around the same time and try to be busy. In the mornings, go work out. I don't know, read a book. It's tempting to watch Netflix for 7 hours. And that's another thing. You should pace yourself when it comes to Netflix and any other source of entertainment. I mean, I wouldn't mind if you guys wanted to binge watch every single episode I have. That would be terrible advice for me to give you, because you do lose track when you're binge watching anything. The first week that we were told to stay home, I think I watched like 7 movies. It was 8 in the morning and I was watching the Count of Monte Cristo, and it hit me right there. I was like, what I've watched everything. What am I going to do? I started looking for shows and I would kill them in like 2 sittings, and you definitely don't feel good after you've done that. You spend all day inside. You haven't gone out. You haven't moved. Depression could set in real quick if you do that. So I would say use the shows and the entertainment as like a little reward at the end of the day. Try to limit yourself. Say like, I'm only going to watch 2 episodes and go to bed, because it's a slippery slope. You can start a season and finish it all in one night. You have to have some self-restraint. We were talking at work and I told one of my coworkers, you've watched too much Pornhub when you start rewatching videos you've already watched. There's a lot of videos on there. And if you're already recycling, maybe it's a sign that you should stop. So pace yourself when it comes to entertainment. Do other activities. Don't just stay at home, because the longer you stay inside with no human contact or just being out and about, you can go outside and run. You could go for a walk and get some fresh air. And you could sit down outside of your house and read a book. I'm not saying you have to get into a big group and socialize with everybody, but maybe socialize with the people that are in your house. People say like social distancing, like what is it, 1 person per house? Fuck that. There's like 4 people in this house. I'm not going to stay away from them all the time. I need to talk to somebody, and if they're going to get it, I for sure am going to get it regardless. So the important part would be not to binge watch any shows or anything like that. Use it as a reward at the end of the night for a good job done, for actually being productive all day long. And here's a trick. The more boring the subject is, the better it is to watch at night, because it knocks you the fuck out. If you guys want to watch this, if you think this is boring, by all means, put it on and just let me put you to bed. I do that to my girlfriend all the time. She starts talking to me. It's like 4 in the morning and she starts asking me questions and I go off and I start talking, and eventually she just falls asleep. She does that a lot, actually. Maybe she finds me boring. I don't know. But, just have a little bit of discipline and understand that there is more to do than just watch Netflix for 7 hours a day. Because 1, you're going to come out of quarantine thick as fuck. And 2, you're going to feel pretty shitty about yourself. So try to stay busy with other activities. And another thing the quarantine has given us is that it's kind of like a pause button on everybody's life. So this is the perfect time to reevaluate who you are and who you were before this all started and who you want to be after it all ends. Everybody's given a little bit of extra time to think about stuff, turn off the TV and just sit there and kind of meditate and think to yourself, who was I and who I don't want to be when this is done. It's great to plan things that you want to do and maybe make a list of all the things you're going to do once this is all over, and maybe really think about any bad habits that you had when you were allowed to be yourself and go out, and is your bank account looking better because you're not spending $150 at the bar every weekend? Do you feel better on the weekends because you're not hungover all the time? Is there certain people that you hung out with that you don't necessarily need to hang out with anymore? Because obviously, this quarantine has shown us that you don't have to see everybody or be with everybody all the time. So maybe get rid of some toxic relationships, some toxic friendships. And there's a lot that you can think of. What I want to do when this is all over is do things that I took for granted. You only appreciate things when they're taken away from you. I feel like the person I was before this all started was a person that was scared to do a lot of things. Obviously, I do a lot of things already that are out there, this podcast itself. When I first started it, I was scared that what are people going to think of me? Are they going to make fun of me? But I did it, and it turned out to be one of the best things I ever did because I love doing this. But there's certain things that I'm still scared to do, like take risks. One of the first things I want to do, and hopefully they're open, is jump out of a plane, go skydiving, and travel to places where I was scared because I didn't know the language. And probably the perfect time to go traveling just because everything's going to be dirt cheap and these airlines are just going to be like, fuck, we need the money. So if you want to go to Thailand for $150, take the risk, homeboy, and just go. I'm not going to allow this virus to scare the shit out of me and dictate my life. If I get it, then I'll cross that bridge when I'm there. But to allow it to control everything I do, people are going to be scared to go to concerts. People are going to be scared to go to the beach or be at a crowded park. All these things we took for granted that now we can't do because of this virus. There's a level of risk. And if you, like I said, if you do your research, you know exactly what that risk is and what could happen if you do get it. And to my knowledge, I don't know whether I have like an underlying problem or some underlying disease that if I do get COVID, I'll die. And that is pretty scary. But going to the supermarket and I get hit by a car, still the same. It's almost more of a chance of me getting hit by a car than dying from COVID-19. So if I'm taking that risk every day, why not take the risk of getting COVID-19? I know it sounds like the dumbest thing because it's like, oh, you could get it and give it to somebody else. Okay, well, we're all going to die. Maybe I'm a little more morbid when it comes to death, but I'm not going to allow this disease to control every aspect of my life and live my life in fear. Because if you're going to do that, then you shouldn't be living at all. If you allow fear to control your life, you're never going to do anything fun. You're never going to feel what it really feels to live. So that's what I'm going to do when this is all over. I'm going to take more risk and actually feel alive and not take for granted everything, like the simple things like getting a haircut or being able to go to the pool or the park. It's a well-deserved break. A lot of people push themselves, and this is kind of the world saying, hey, take a break, okay? We need to figure this out, and once we figure it out, you can keep going. But take it as a break, take it as a pause, and start thinking about what you guys want to do with the rest of your lives. And that's pretty much all my tips. If you guys have any tips, I always say comment down below. A lot of people just direct message me. That's fine too. I would love to hear what you guys are doing. I would love to hear what kind of plans you guys have after the quarantine ends. And hopefully everybody's safe and sound, and, good luck to everybody because it's a matter of luck. You could prevent this and that, but at the end of the day, if it's your time and you're going to get corona or you're going to die, it is your time. There's nothing that you can do about it. And before I end this episode, I want to talk about UFC 249 getting canceled. When I heard that UFC was like the biggest honey dick of this quarantine the whole time. It was that little like light at the end of the tunnel. I felt like we haven't seen any sporting event in so long that this is where we were all going to just join and watch a sporting event, and the whole world who has nothing to do. We were all going to watch and talk about the fights, and I should have known it was too good to be true. When Dana White came out and said that UFC 249 was still on and he was doing everything, I truly believed him. And then you hear Khabib went to Russia and he can't get back into the United States. So you hit a low and you're like, it's not gonna happen. And then they come back and they're like, oh, Tony versus Gaethje. And you're like, it is gonna happen. And then they say there's an island that Dana White bought, and you're like, holy shit, it's gonna happen. And then they're like, oh, we got this reservation, Indian reservation out in California, and everybody's gonna get tested, and all the fighters are gonna come over, and they're better off being at the fights than they are just being at home with their family because there's medical staff that's going to be provided and everybody's going to get tested and it's going to be a safe environment where we can showcase these fights. And you're like, fuck, yes. Like I'm already planning, I hit up my boys and I'm like saying like, hey, like the fight's on. I'm just going to buy a steak and I'm going to drink whiskey and I'm going to watch it in my room and it's going to be a great night. And you get all excited. And then you hear Dana White come out with Brett Akamoto, and Dana says that the higher ups from Disney and ESPN hit him up and said, yeah, you can't do it. And it wasn't like they didn't know throughout the weeks what he was trying to do. It wasn't like they told him no and he said, fuck you guys, I'm going to do it anyways. They knew what he was doing, and then somebody stepped in. And I get him. I get it. He's trying to save his ass because he is the governor of California. But that piece of shit just broke a lot of our dreams, or at least my dreams. All of the hopes we had that we were going to watch a live sporting event pretty much ruined my night. And you guys could say it's selfish or whatever, but when Dana White is saying that they're better off being with him because he's going to provide the best medical care, and then you have this pussy just step in and tell everybody, no, you guys can't have fun. Because homeboy's in California thinking it's doomsday and he's bunkering down, and California is probably going to see the longest quarantine out of the whole country because they have a pussy for a governor. And I get that you guys think I'm mad. I'm not mad. I don't care. If it sucks that I can't watch it, but there is some good that comes out of them canceling it. But I'm disappointed that I'm not going to be able to watch the fights because some dude who has no idea what was going on behind the scenes just decided to shut it down. Why not shut it down 2-3 weeks ago? He shut it down a week before. Like, what a dick move. A lot of people aren't happy with him. I know he's just trying to save his ass because he's trying to show people that he took care of them during the quarantine next election. And I get that he's just trying to keep his place of power, but you really fucked us. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger would have kept it going, Arnold would have beat Corona's ass himself. He beat the shit out of Predator and the fucking robot. So, he was a robot too, but homeboy gets shit done. That's what I'm trying to say. He's not a pussy about it. And he's an actual UFC fan. So I'm sure if Arnold was still governor, he would have had the fight to go on. But no, he had to fuck his Guatemalan maid. But anyways, there is some good that comes out of it. Now we get to see Khabib and Tony and maybe Conor versus Gaethje, and all is right with the world. If the quarantine things do get lifted or eased, you're going to see a lot of these cool fights go back to back because the UFC is trying to make their nut. So hopefully we see that. But I am running out of time. I probably should get a camera that does more than 30 minutes, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for choosing to watch this during your quarantine. Hopefully you guys stay safe and sound and clean, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. So thank you very much.